want the donations and all like that. But for the most time, they're basically cowards. And they're not ready to take action or stand in defense of something. And this is problematic because it sets a tone and it invites the enemy to come in because this is an unprotected gate. And that's a sad way to go about things. And this is why we have so many kids are godless. You know, because people aren't standing up and saying, well, you got to get your kid baptized. Well, you got half the population has never, you know, seen a church or, you know, understands that Jesus isn't, you know, just a prophet and things like this, that they want to be told, well, Jesus is no different than any other man. He just said some stuff that people thought was pretty cool. That's how I had a young guy explain to me what Jesus was.
That was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the severity of the condition that we're in.
But I told this guy, as being a natural, I said, you're the kind of person, when things go to hell in a bucket, everyone's going to run to you. They're going to say, what do we do? I said, I'm the kind of guy people are going to run to and say, what do we do? You're the kind of guy they're going to say, what do we do? And you're going to say, I don't know, let's go ask Larry. You know? But you're going to say, you know.
Larry usually says, well, I don't know.
Well, I haven't, you know, you probably say I haven't thought about it, but I know Larry has. And I'm not saying that'll happen. You'll know. But this guy was a natural. And I said, you know, like how the Great Plains and how this country was taken over by settlers. They would come into the open woods all alone. You know, they didn't have anything. Many times they didn't have a dog. They were all alone. And they set about trying to tame this land and make things happen, but they didn't have the benefit of anything to help them. They had to have this guidance right in here with them, this sense of strength and this sense of purpose that was there, this divine feeling of faith that Jesus and God was there with them. You know, many of them didn't have any kind of following for Mary, but they knew Jesus. They were very basic in their formation typically. And so I said, these guys faced the plains and the uncertainty of day in, day out with just this hope inside them. They didn't have priests. They didn't have a church. They didn't have a community.
They had a divine indwelling.
They had this beginnings of this divine indwelling. They had this feeling that was inside them that kept driving them and was their comfort when they were scared. And as a result, whenever they would find out that there was a missionary priest or whatever was at the fort 40 miles away, when they found out, usually these Jesuits were coming through, they'd stop at Old Fort Wayne. And it was incumbent upon those priests to stay there for 10 to 14 days, because that allowed the word to get out and then for the people to come in. So, and these guys would drop everything they were doing. It was common practice that if they were out plowing the field and they found out there was a priest there, they would just unhook their horse right there on the road that they were cutting at that time, hop on that horse, try to make it to the fort before that priest was gone, just so that they could have their confession heard and receive communion and to be in the presence of a priest to help them feel system. Because they didn't know if they'd ever see one again or if they would die the next day.
Great desire and great faith and hardship, which seemed to center them, but now we've got excess and no time for Christ.
Well, this is the apathy is set in, so this is where at the last stage of the decline of nations. You know, and no country has ever come back from it. And that's why Archbishop Noel said the only thing that can save us from this is intervention by Jesus himself.
I agree.
He said that was back in 1940.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, was that your book? You had The Decline of Nations.
Yeah, I agree. But hasn't it always been like that our Lord picks up the tab, that he's always compensating, going the extra? And it's like I said, they crossed the Moses and they crossed the Red Sea, and very shortly after that they defect. I mean,
oh yeah, they had.
Is this our nature? Is this our nature to?
Yeah, because we're soft, and you know sometimes it takes just this heavy chastisement. You know, which is weird that came up on the phone about this chastisement. You know, I got to dig up this guy. Spurgeon is his name, so I'll have to look into him a little bit more. But it was right on track with what we were talking about. And I don't know, just been a lot of weird things happening this week, and that's just another one right there. But, kind of going with this, and people had talked about Rome City and the water and stuff like that. And this one priest, this Father Tom Celso, saying that the water is miraculous. It just touched my lips and I was healed immediately. And that, I think, that kind of thinking, I think, sends a bad signal to the next follower coming in, because if they don't get that, then they're like crushed, or they think that I'm not worthy.
Well, even
like
when you talk about your mother went to Lourdes, Lourdes was the healing property, spiritual properties of the water, and Our Lady of Lourdes. But not everybody that touched the water drank the water. Sometimes the healing was spiritual, or sometimes the healing was for perhaps somebody else. And so not everybody, left their wheelchairs
Canes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can't expect God. Well, I want a miracle. I want it to be this. I mean, you can ask for it, but He knows better than us the road to salvation. So we can't be disappointed if we don't immediately get what we think we're supposed to get. I mean, we've given very little to Christ, let alone have an expectation. But
You want an interactive story?
Yeah.
Well, you just hit on the Lourdes thing. Let's call St. Rita.
Okay.
She'll tell us about her trip to Lourdes with her sisters. And I think some of these things you just talked about will probably pull right out of that. So, can you hear that? Okay.
Hello?
St. Rita!
Yes, yes.
I'm in the studio here with Alex right now. And say hello to everybody.
Hello?
Hi, Rita. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
we're having a discussion here about Lourdes. And I'm reminded about the trip that you took with your sisters, Aunt Jeanette and Aunt Peggy, when you guys went to your junket over there. You did Rome and then you did Lourdes. And a little bit, and what Alex was hitting on a little bit with these healings kind of reminded me about what Aunt Jeanette had said, with the baths and stuff like that. But I'll get to that. But what was the trip like? Tell people, what was that like? Was that like 72 when you went?
I don't remember. It was shortly after Mary died.
Oh, because that would have been like 74 then.
Yeah, okay.
Can you
So,
hear that?
but anyhow, leading up to the trip, I was thinking today about how I had things happen to me like the devil was trying to keep me from going.
Yeah, like what?
Like, I was coming, one time I tripped over something in the kitchen, and it was not crazy, and I thought, like, oh, I almost lost my balance in there. But I told the devil, I said, knock it off. I am going to Rome. And so after that, we did the show in Chicago, and on the way home, I was driving, and it was sunny, and a car came across the intersection and almost sideswiped hit me. And I thought, well, that's getting pretty close, too. That would put me out of connection. And I told him, I said, knock it off. I am going to Rome,
So that was your first inclination each time these things happened was,
yeah. And I couldn't believe that would come so close. And I don't know whether Jeanette and Peggy had anything going on or not, but I never told anybody about it before. So,
well, it's too late now. Everybody knows now.
yeah.
Saint Rita, I got a question for you. Why did you want to go to Lourdes?
Well, because they were having Lourdes, having 5 days in Rome, an overnight in Lourdes, and then they were going to Fatima. And so those were the things I would want to see if I went over there, it all in one trip. Why not?
Okay, so it
No,
was
just how
the interest
yeah.
to see these
Yeah.
apparition sites.
Yeah.
Was there
yeah.
any expectation of that you had an ailment or any of the people that attended with you that had something that they wanted our Lord to perhaps address?
I didn't know anybody else that went except Jeanette and Peggy, and I didn't want to go alone, so I was going to ask Peggy to go with me. And I said, I'll help you with the fee if you want to go. And Bill said, no, just go. And then Ralph said to Jeanette, if they're going, you should go. She said, I don't like to travel, just go anyhow. And so the three of us went there. And so when we got in Rome, when we got there, the airport people were all on strike. So we couldn't even pull into the deal. We had to park out on the tarmac and carry our bags into the station, you know.
No employees for the
Nobody
gates.
was working. Right,
Yeah.
right.
They
were all
had to
on
get all their
strike.
own bags and everything and carry it around. They were schlepping their own stuff.
Yeah, we
One hell of a
just had
tour.
A lot of blockades all the time, you know. And then after we got to Rome, the leader of the Communist Party died in Rome. And so that was a big deal for them. So more stuff shut down. So
And you were told not to talk to people because they didn't like Americans.
yeah, that was when we went on a side trip to see the kids from the Fatima. And we were coming back, they closed the roads. So the bus couldn't get back into town. So we had to go to the bus station, where was the train station, and the gal on the bus said, I'll go in and buy the tickets if you don't speak the language, you know. She said, so when you get in there, try to get on the same card, because these people don't like you here. So,
Yeah.
so it died. So,
Unless you have $100 bill taped to your forehead, then they'll pay attention to you.
yeah.
There may have been some of that. Well, we were talking about Lourdes. So when you got to Lourdes after the Rome stuff, I know you'd said you kind of got in there like midday and you were tired from your traveling, but you only had like one night at Lourdes and then part of the next morning. So
Right. So when we got in there were three in this room, you know, instead of the place for two. But they brought in a cot all the time. They would accommodate three people, you know. And I asked, I said, how come I always get the cot? and Peggy said, well, if you're going to bawl about it, take Jeanette's bed.
they're
Can I
fun.
have the bed, please?
There was so much marble in Lourdes. France has a lot of marble, I guess. And it was a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Yeah. So, and so we were tired, and they were having the prayer for the healing, for asking for a healing. And we didn't want to go there then with all that crowd. And Jeanette and Peggy went to bed and took a nap. And I said, hey, you guys ought to get up and see this. Because we were right on the drag there. And see all these people going down for the prayer group and all. And the gurneys and the wheelchairs and the crutches. And they were going 10 abreast down this street to go to this healing service. And so we didn't go to that at all. But after they left and they were over their deal, we went down there and visited, and they had shops selling religious goods and stuff from the fountains. They had 6 spigots going down there where 6 people could draw water at the same time. And so that's what we were doing. And then there was a place where you could have a rosary set. So I had a rosary set or not a rosary, but a mass set for Lenore, because she had given me money to spend over there.
One of our neighbors.
Yeah. So, and then maybe the next day, we went, after breakfast, we went to have baths. And you go in there one at a time, you get undressed, and they give you a cape to wear to go in there. And there was one gal standing at the tub and telling you what to do and how to do it and what to ask for if you want to ask for anything. So it was all downloaded with light, shadowy light.
Diffused light, very low key.
Yeah. And all the while, they were praying the rosary over the loudspeaker. So it was solid deal. Nobody was talking and gabbling or anything like that.
So a lot of reverence and a lot of quietude going on, and a lot of people, looking for something.
Yeah. So the men were doing their thing over at the other side, where they were getting their baths and stuff. So we didn't see a lot of Lourdes, other things other than that. So.
But you saw those things, and I was remembering when Aunt Jeanette, in her last, months or whatever, we were down visiting with her. My Aunt Jeanette lived to be 98 years old, and she just died a couple years ago.
Wow.
And but when she was sitting in her chair and she was making these banners that we have here of Our Lady of America, she would sew all the jewels onto them.
Oh.
And these are ones that some of the bishops use outside of abortion centers trying to close them down. So Bishop Procty says that banner has been responsible for 2 closures already. And so, but anyway, this aunt was my godmother, Aunt Jeanette, her sister. And I was sitting there with her one afternoon, and I said, "So, how's it going?" And she says, "I think I asked for too much." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Well, when we went to Lourdes, they ask you when you're going into the bath. It says, so what do we need to work on to heal? What are you looking to heal today?" And my aunt just said, "Heal it all." Heal everything.
Yeah.
She couldn't think of any one thing. She says, "Just heal it all." And at 98 years old, when she's waiting to check out, she said, "I think I asked for too much." And I got greedy. And she says, "Next time I won't ask for."
I'll be more specific.
She says, "Next time I won't ask for so much." But and she was laughing. I mean, she was very impish, and she had a great sense of humor, like St. Rita does. But it was just one of those things that goes back to this event when they were all taking these baths. She says, "I asked for too much," and that was her thinking, that I shouldn't ask for so much at Lourdes,
Wow.
because she got it.
Rita, you were there a short time. Did you see anybody to your right or left that seemed to got a healing or?
I never saw any cures or anything like that.
Okay.
And of course, with our group, they ran us through early, I think.
Okay.
And nobody else, because there was like 88 in our group.
Wow.
So it took quite a while to go one by one, in there. And they didn't rush you or anything like that. But those tubs were cement. They were like made out of cement, whatever. And so like a big bathtub. And so one crawled in right after the other.
Wow. Well, there's
Nobody questioned the water.
Yeah.
in Monroeville, my son-in-law, he belongs to the Knights of Columbus, and they did a fundraiser. I think they raised $7,000 for a young man. I think he's in his 30s that has a spinal cord. I think he's a paraplegic, and he's planning on going to Lourdes. And I've been wanting to give him a book on Wisdom of the Woman, and there's information about Our Lady of America, and but I don't know. How could we recommend him to Our Lady of America? Would he go to the Springs?
No one's going to give him a bath.
You don't have to go to Lourdes. You can get a cure any place.
Correct.
Cured. The Blessed Virgin said there's going to be more cures at the Springs than at Lourdes or Fatima.
Right, that's right.
But
right.
most of them of a spiritual nature.
Correct.
And they're as important as, yeah, or more so, even.
Let me ask you, in the teachings that you followed and the readings, does either one of the two, between Lourdes or Our Lady of America, affect you more or seem more personable or relatable?
No, but the people were really devout at all those places, as far as that goes. But I don't think any more than at Lourdes, at the Springs,
Yeah.
They're pretty good out there. They were when you were there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've seen some very structured people come through.
Yeah.
We've seen some real loose cannons though too.
Yeah.
And but it all goes together. But you kind of focus on the strengths and not the weaknesses so much.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
it was one thing. I was talking with Saint Rita years ago. I think it was during the trial. And on Friday evenings after the trial, because the trial lasted for 3 months, and on Friday evenings I would be released from the trial about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We closed down early. And I would drive from Indianapolis back to Fort Wayne to stay with St. Rita for the weekend. And we were talking one time, and we were talking about all the money that had been expended and basically lost along the way as far as investments. And it was without any coaching or anything, but St. Rita just said, just quietly, she said, "What's a miracle worth?" And that we had seen miracles there. And it was such a perfect response to
Absolutely.
my question. Or she says, "Well, what's a miracle worth?"
Right.
And had we not done all that, would any of those things have ever happened? And so it was kind of a weird moment for me. Yeah, but it was the truth.
Yeah.
Said through a different set of eyes that I needed to hear too.
Well, sure, because it puts it in the context of a soul being saved for heaven, and it's our Lord showed what it's worth by going to the cross for us. What's it worth? There's no amount of money, especially when we get into heaven, I think. And Larry had a glimpse of it on the hill, but really, that's what it's about. I mean, the struggle, money can always be replaced. The same thing. What's his name? The guy that was the head of Apple. He was saying, at the end of his life, and he mentions Jesus Christ. He said, "I had a $300,000 car, and another guy had a $3,000 car. We both got to the same place at the same time."
Mm-hmm.
So he was going down, one of the richest people in the world. But what good is it that now I'm yielding to cancer?
Right.
So that's perfect. It's what is a miracle worth? It's probably worth everything, especially when we get to heaven. And we told our Lord, "Listen, we gave, and we're thankful that we did do that. And perhaps we'll meet those souls that were saved, that your family embraced in your own suffering, your own social crucifixion, you'll meet those people that you never knew that you were actually participating in that divine salvation. So, I mean, this is why we do it too, Rita, right for the kids. What are we going to leave for these children? What are we going to leave for these children? And I look at my grandkids and I think, my God, we got to leave them Christ. That's why we do this. I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But your family contributed to what our Lord asked, and He came to your family, and you've proceeded in a very respectable and gracious manner. Even when Larry had to ask Jesus to get his prankster Gabriel to go fix the computer.
Yeah, well, there's been a number of
Did you
things.
tell her that?
No, I haven't told her that about that yet, but she'll learn. I had to call on Gabriel to fix my computer this week.
True story.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't get anything done with the computer. I was really, really frustrated. I finally tore it all apart, put it away, and I just told Jesus, I said, Lord, I said, if you want me to keep working on this stuff, you got to get Gabriel to get down here and fix this piece of shit for me because it's not working. 5 hours later, I came back. The thing worked perfectly.
So I told Larry, I said, that's a real prayer. You know what I mean? He's not bullshitting around.
I was just so frustrated after 2 days, and I just said, I got to get this thing fixed. But it's working now, and it was just one of those things. Walk away. I have a question for you, Mom. It has to do with Father Habel. You know, and Father Habel had told you when he was at St. Anne's about that event that he and I had up on the hill, and how shaken he was when he recalled it, and how you knew right then from his reaction that it was true. Father's influence on you in your life since you were like, 16 years old, thereabouts, when he was your high school teacher?
Yeah.
So thereabouts. So Father Habel's first assignment after being ordained was in high school. He ended up being St. Rita's homeschool teacher.
Jeez.
Homeschool, he was a homeroom teacher.
He was assistant to Father Simons. Yeah.
But he took care of your homeroom, didn't he?
No.
Oh, I thought he was your homeroom, but he was there at the school. Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
All those years, what impact do you think Father Habel's presence at the Springs led to your overall comfort in all this, today when you look back on it? Did that help you a lot? Did that cause you more concern?
No, I thought he was an asset.
Oh, he definitely was an asset. Yeah.
So, but see, I missed out on his life a long time, years between my schooling and my work at the VA and all, and it was only after we got married and he was pastor down at St. Henry's that we really got close. But he never left that group of people. His first assignment in Decatur, because he was real friendly with the Bakers, and the father and all down there, and so he liked Decatur, really well. So,
well, it was a great group. I mean, it was a great parish down there.
Right. So he stayed with them. He never forgot that first assignment. Yeah.
St. Rita, can you remember when you went to visit him and talk to him about that experience that he had on the hill? Can you tell us what he said to you?
I didn't say a whole lot whenever I thought he was going to pitch a fit, But after that happened, nobody was talking about it at all. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to wait until I'm with him alone sometime.
Okay.
And ask him. And so time went on, and every time we would be there to visit him, Frank would be with me, so I couldn't say anything.
Frank the Tank.
Yeah, my dad.
So finally, one time I was there. It was just a long time. This might have been just a couple of years before he died.
Yeah.
And so I said, Father, the other day I was thinking about that deal you and Larry had up on the hill, And I just got that out of my mouth when his toes started tapping. He was in his chair, and his hands kept clapping like.
Wow.
And his eyes got big as saucers. And I thought, oh my God, this man is going to pitch a fit right in front of me. And I don't know where the nurse's station is to call a nurse if I need some help.
You should
And
know
so
you're
I-
a nurse.
You're a nurse.
So I quick changed the subject. And, he turned it off as fast as he turned it on. And then he went right back to where he was before.
Wow.
But he corroborated it because it was
Right,
very
right.
impactful. I mean,
But I got my answer. Then I knew something big
Went down.
and he felt happened there over the hill.